The Honourable President Bogyay, thank you again very, very much for the distinct honour that you've given our institute by having come here for the annual conference this year, for your lecture and also the tremendous panel discussion just now. So first of all, thank you very much from our side. And we'd love to have the opportunity now just to ask you a few follow-up questions, in particular regarding cultural diplomacy. First question I wanted to ask. Given your eminent career as a producer, writer, and diplomat, you've been an inspiration for many different questions. But I'll start with, I guess, my most important few. The first one is to focus on your experience as a cultural diplomat. Do you believe that the practices of the cultural diplomacy can effectively be applied to the process of conflict resolution and peace building? Or do they represent a useful tool just under the circumstances of good political and diplomatic relations? So does it work if there's a conflict or just if you have good relations between countries? Where are the limits of cultural diplomacy in that sense?
Dear Director, first of all, I'm really very happy that I was invited to this conference. And as I said in my lecture, I was dreaming about an institution which is called Institution for Cultural Diplomacy, because throughout my personal career, I would say in the last 30 years, I always believed that cultural diplomacy is the real possibility for the people, and it is a real chance for all of us at least to try not to misunderstand each other. I think it's very important to understand that very often the problems start because we just don't understand each other. We just totally misunderstand each other. So cultural diplomacy is something which is over political periods. Cultural diplomacy is about the grand people living together, and cultural diplomacy is also a hope. You see, I was brought up behind the Iron Curtain, and I, in my personal life, very strongly felt that through cultural diplomacy I had the chance to be related and to be linked to the rest of the world. So I am a great advocate for cultural diplomacy as a very important part of the so-called soft power diplomacy. I don't believe actually that cultural diplomacy can be used either all in good relations or in conflict zones. I think cultural diplomacy has got different roles in relations amongst countries which have got a good ongoing relationship, because cultural diplomacy can focus mainly on collaborations and cooperations in these countries, and this is very important. In conflict zones and in pre-conflict solutions or solutions of conflict situations, you just use cultural diplomacy in another way. You target the audience. You know exactly what is your message. You know what is the conflict about, so you rather mediate. So it's a kind of mediation system and a kind of mediation method, I would say, in the conflict areas. But because I take cultural diplomacy as a very normal behavior, as a relationship between two people or more people, and it always starts with me introducing myself to you, and then I'm hoping you will be interested in me, but I would have to take the first step. So in cultural diplomacy, that is why proactive diplomacy is very important. Don't wait until the last moment. Don't wait until the real conflicts. Try to start to introduce yourself, obviously, and try to use cultural diplomacy as a strong tool which really can build peace and security in long term in the world. And it doesn't mean that it will be a success in 5 minutes or in 1 day or in 1 year, because it's a long-term investment. It's not, and that is why very often politicians are afraid of cultural diplomacy, because they would like to see solutions immediately. But cultural diplomacy is something which is a long-term investment, like education, which will then see and bring the results in a later time.
Thank you very much for your...
Thank you.
President Bogyay, I do share actually the same pleasure as Mark does for having you joining us in this international conference about the power of art and cultural diplomacy. And I have actually two questions. One of them related to the annexation of Palestine to the United Nations Agency, and the other one is related to the future cooperation of ICD with the UNESCO. So my first question is, as President of the General Council of the UNESCO, you witnessed the annexation of Palestine within the agency before the Palestinian National Authority joining the United Nations General Assembly as a non-member observer. This event fueled the hopes of those who believe in the power of art and culture as a vehicle to promote democracy and global peace. What do you see are the next decisive move in the direction by the UNESCO conference?
Well, first of all, as I'm the president of the General Conference, it was a very remarkable day of my life when I led the meeting in which we had a two-thirds majority of the countries, because we had to have a two-thirds majority vote in order to get anyone to the General Conference. This time it was Palestine. I have to tell you that as the president of the General Conference, I had a lot of talks before that. And many countries came to me, we had a lot of discussions, but obviously the president, you have to know, doesn't vote. The president of the General Conference is there in a role in which she or he has to follow the rules. We have got very important rules which govern our work in the UNESCO. So the president is there, first of all, to keep up the style, the tone of the organization, of the speeches, of the way of behavior. This is a house of many countries and many cultures, and I believe that this is a house, a center of intercultural dialogue. So obviously, after the decision of two-thirds majority of the members of UNESCO, we are witnessing a situation in which we can say that Palestine is the member of UNESCO. I want to make a distinction between the status of the membership in UNESCO and in the UN. So I'm talking now about UNESCO. Now it means that Palestine can join all the conventions within UNESCO. Palestine can be voted into a member of the executive board, so Palestine can have full-scale work within all the genres of life we have got in UNESCO. I, as the president of the General Conference, would like very much to see that this situation will bring UNESCO, Palestine and Israel, which is a very valuable member of UNESCO, closer to each other, which will give them a possibility to sit down and to discuss their problems, their topics, because UNESCO should be really a platform for discussion and dialogue. What is very important, obviously, that for both Israel and for Palestine, UNESCO is a possibility to target the problems, to talk about their countries, to talk about the important issues, what lead their life. And UNESCO should be a platform to accommodate these talks and this dialogue. We will see how it will go. I hope that both in the World Heritage Committee, in all the other convention work, and if they will be members of the executive board, the dialogue will continue. UNESCO is for dialogue, and this is how I would like to see the role of all the members in UNESCO.
Thank you. My last question, actually, you just said like the UNESCO is the house of everyone and of all the culture and the house of negotiation. As you know, I see institutes such as the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy embraces the same values and stand for the same cause as the UNESCO stands for. My question for you is, can you envision a strengthening in the collaboration and partnership between the General Conference in the UNESCO and the ICD in the near future? In order to promote several values of art, culture, and desire of place.
I can very well see a stronger collaboration between UNESCO and your NGO, because as I understand, this is an NGO. Now, NGOs can have special status with UNESCO. There is an application process. We can talk about that. You can apply to UNESCO. You have, to give a summary about your work, and you can get different status within UNESCO. You can have a consultative status, which is a very beautiful status, meaning we are in a very strong relationship with you, talking about similar processes, advocating the importance of culture diplomacy. We have got a very strong need within UNESCO working with NGOs all over the world, and we have got very good working relationships with NGOs. It is so important that, for example, within the executive board, there is a very special part of the work which is related to the NGOs. So I would advise you to see the forms what are required to be filled in order to the application, and you see all the NGOs which are committed and which are representing similar values, what we are representing in UNESCO, are very dear to our work. So I would like very much to see how we can elaborate the future working relationship between your organization and UNESCO. I am very proud that UNESCO is really an organization which is totally global. But I have to tell you, I'm really impressed being here the very first time in my life and meeting very high-level representatives from all over the world who have already participated on the highest level in the progress and development of culture diplomacy, and who can really inspire each other. You see, I am invited to so many conferences and meetings, and I think very often people forget about one important factor. One thing is that you give a lecture, you have an audience, you have a dialogue with the audience. The other very important level of communication in the conferences is measured by the interactions between the conference speakers. It's very seldom that we have got really time meeting with each other, and very often we go to that kind of conferences because we see who are coming, and you feel that, oh, I would like to meet her or him, or change experiences or share views with the person who is already on the program. Because in a way, so far, what I experienced here, we are very much talking about the same thing. How we would like to contribute to the dialogue in the world, through which we could create a secure and safe future to our children. Everyone, I didn't hear anyone who wouldn't, in a way, have talked about this, because that would be really the result of all our activities. We probably use different tools, we come from different countries, we have different positions or experiences, but the target is the same. And that is why I believe in culture diplomacy, because in culture diplomacy we work together, we inspire each other, and the result is a joint result. It's not a result of one person or of one country. The result is a joint result. And here I would like to go back, if you allow me, that of course I'm also the ambassador of my country, Hungary, which is very rich and very multi-layered in culture. This year, within UNESCO and in the whole world, we remember one of the greatest conductors of 20th century, Sir Georg Solti, who was born in Hungary, but who became an international musician in the whole world. And he was the one who funded in 1995 the World Orchestra for Peace. And that was the 50th anniversary of the UN, of the birth of the UN. And what he said was, let's show an example to the politicians what is real international collaboration. And this is cultural diplomacy.
Your Excellency, we hope and hopefully your presence with us this year in the international conference will bring birth to this collaboration between the ICD and the UNESCO International Conference. Thank you very much indeed for your presence, for your time and for your clarity. We really appreciate your contribution with us, and thank you.
I thank you very much, and I feel very honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director.